Hey everyone, this is Carmel Kemp, and today on Creating Life Consciously, I am super stoked to be speaking with Lynda Fletcher. Lynda is a wise woman, way shower, and advocate. Her work is inspired by love, empathy, humor, and a healthy dose of truth telling. Out of her own lessons in healing, she creates courses, spiritual journeys, sacred ceremonies, retreats, and intensives. Lynda creates experiences for individuals and groups designed to reveal the roadblocks and isolation that deny women a sense of self-worth, empowerment, and sisterhood. She believes they are the keys to a woman's fundamental sense of security in her own skin and a state that inspires her to powerfully live into her deepest desires and truest intentions. It is Lynda's deepest desire to be part of a world where the feminine finally finds her rightful place as an equal partner to the masculine. Amazing! Lynda Fletcher, everybody. Lynda and I
Hello.
have been, we got a little caught up because we do know each other from a while ago, and we've been talking for half an hour, and we're like, maybe we should actually start the podcast.
Right?
Because, some of this stuff is pretty juicy, Linda. Oh my God, it's so good to see you. I can't believe it's so
Oh,
long.
yeah, I am super excited to see you because you are a person that I always think of as someone who expands the way that I think because we come from kind of different traditions. And I think that's super cool because I get to see things through your eyes and then I go, oh, yeah, I never thought of it that way. So I love talking with you.
I know, same, right? I mean, it's about, planting seeds. We were just kind of talking about,
Yeah.
planting seeds and dialogue and the different modalities of what people refer to as healing. And I think that we touched on that. So let's kind of dive into that a little bit more if you want.
Yeah, I have a good friend who is she helps coaches and other kinds of um, healers or whatever with their marketing in their business. And I was just talking with her the other day, and part of marketing your business is around what do you call yourself? And I was saying to her that, I don't like calling myself a healer because I don't feel like I'm the one doing the healing. I feel like I'm calling on spirit and also the person that I'm working with. Uh, I can point out things to them. I'm highly intuitive. I can show them how they're living in this silo and don't always have a clear vision of themselves. Um, and I can show them how the way that they communicate or the way that they behave can get in the way of the things that they want. And I cannot stop that for them. I can't shift that for them. I can't um, change it unless they're willing to be a participant. So to say that I'm a healer always feels a little awkward to me because I don't feel like I'm the one doing the healing. They're doing the healing. I'm helping, but I'm like just the kind of the guide. I'm not the one who's actually doing it.
Right. Something that I've really sort of leaned into in a little bit of a different way in the last maybe 6 to 9 months is looking at the concept of what people are referring to as healing and why, right?
Yeah.
When we seek healing, it implies that there's something wrong, right?
And that is such a tricky place, right? Because it's easy to think that when I'm unhappy or I'm frustrated or disappointed or whatever, that means there's something wrong and something has to happen about it. And I was just telling you about an experience I had that was very painful and also necessary.
Yeah, yeah. It's so complex because the perception of suffering and misery automatically leads people to think that it's bad
Hmm.
and that it's wrong. However, in my experience, um, some of my greatest sufferings and miseries have led to incredible insights and wisdom, which
Absolutely.
where I say if you can find the wisdom in an experience and truly embrace and understand that, then you can turn the pain to gain. And it's not there is no pain. There never really was. It's only the perception of your
Yeah.
lens and thoughts and create the emotions. Emotions create thoughts.
Yes. Yeah. I have never made a leap forward in ecstasy. It has always been, for me at least, this often deep emotional pain, this deep, like, scraping and cleansing and releasing of things. And like you're saying, there always wisdom comes from it. But for me, it's never come in a moment of ecstasy. And I mean, I'm a big meditator and I love that feeling of kind of being at one with the universe and all of that I can generate when I'm meditating. And I think in some ways it's healing because it allows me to be more self-aware when I practice that. But the actual wisdom did not come in that moment.
Right.
It's never how it works for me.
Yeah. I've had both. I've had both. A lot, of those sort of ecstatic, really moments of grace with, ayahuasca and San Pedro, but not always, right? Also with ayahuasca, there's a lot of, perception of pain, but that sort of that releasing that awareness, right? It's when we talked about plant medicine and specifically with ayahuasca, we talked about straightening of energy because we've just gotten ourselves all tangled up into a big
Yeah.
ball of yarn.
Yeah.
And so when you straighten that energy out, that energy that's been trapped needs to go somewhere, which is why ayahuasca is known as a purga. So you can vomit, you can cry, you can go to the bathroom, you can yawn, you can laugh, you can do so many things. And that's like the release of that energy. And the process in and of itself can be uncomfortable, but what happens afterwards is this oh, because it can get into such a subconscious and unconscious layer that you don't know really what it was. Sometimes you do know
Yeah.
for sure what was being straightened and released. And other times you don't, and you get to the point that you just don't care anymore because, I mean, there's been times in my early ceremonies when I'm heaving over a bucket, and I understand now what's happened because I've done this before, and I'm going, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's so interesting to me because I have not done an ayahuasca ceremony and I haven't ever really done any kind of, um, I don't know if this is the right term, hallucinogenic type drugs. But I was watching a documentary about them not too long ago, and it's very, very fascinating how those substances can reveal things, can, uh, it's almost as if it takes like some big layer of your ego, and peels it away so that you can actually see what's going on in your subconscious. And I think that's just kind of mind blowing, you know? Like like I want to know who is the first person who mixed up a batch of ayahuasca because they thought it was a good idea, right? Because I'm told it doesn't taste very good and it often makes you sick. And so I'm like, how did that happen? Like, who
yeah.
decided that was a good idea?
Well, as the story, the myth, and the legend goes, it's the indigenous, people and medicine men and women that were living within the tribes were so isolated, if you will, from what we would call civilization, that they were in communion with nature constantly. And nature speaks to you.
Yeah.
And so, as the story goes, that there was a medicine man or woman, I guess, sitting in the jungle somewhere, and the spirit of ayahuasca spoke to this person and said, mix me with that plant over there, which is the chacruna leaf, which contains most of the DMT, which opens up the
Okay.
vision space.
Got it.
So ayahuasca, the brew itself, is two ingredients minimal, which is the ayahuasca vine, is the teacher, the healer, the grandmother medicine, and chacruna, which contains the DMT, which opens up the vision space. And the two
Okay.
of those
Got
work
it.
together.
Got it.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So that makes a lot more sense to me, though, than that someone was just sitting around going, oh, I think I should just chew on this or cook it up and drink it or whatever. Like the fact that it was inspired by spirit makes so much more sense to me
right. Yeah.
than someone just
Yeah.
sitting around going, yeah, let's try this.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to psychedelics. You know, we don't like a lot of people will refer to them as hallucinogenics. The issue that I have with that is that a hallucinogenic means that you're hallucinating, which means that it's not real.
Good point.
And
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that for me because I really don't know how to talk about them.
psychedelics are plant medicine.
Got
It's
it.
really the best way to go. And I'm a purist. I don't work with synthetic DMT or any of the other synthetics. I work with pure plant. But yeah, and those spirits and itself. The mind just can't understand. And the thing is, the beautiful thing about this is that she will not ask more of you than she knows that you can. She'll push you sometimes to the limit. And even as a shaman leading the ceremony, we know how high to take the energy based on if there's one person, we take it that high, but then it's a collective of the group and how much they can handle. Because you can't peel the whole onion in one night. It's just, right? We look at it as progression.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
we
love
can,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that you speak of the plants as entities.
they are.
You know, that is also something I didn't really realize was true about an ayahuasca ceremony, that there is, it's, and how do I say, it's not just chemistry, right? It's not just the molecule of the DMT. Like this is an actual being. I don't know, do you say working through the DMT?
It's the spirit. So the ayahuasca mixed with the chacruna together acted what we call and refer to the ayahuasca brew. The chacruna has its spirit of its own, and it'll often actually appear as an eye. Um,
Ah,
right. With ayahuasca, it's a little more complex. Every single plant has a hierarchy of spirits associated with it, and there's not just one. And
okay.
so what we do is that we develop our relationship with the head medicine spirit. So by developing a relationship with the head medicine spirit, that head medicine spirit, and by the way that you created that relationship, some things are negotiable with ayahuasca, some things are absolutely not. But what happens is
Mm,
by having the relationship with the head medicine spirit, that head medicine spirit will then keep out of the ceremony the other spirits that actually, believe it or not, are not so positive and benevolent.
okay.
Which is why it is super, super important that you know what you're doing when you are working with ayahuasca, because there's so many things that can go sideways if you have not built the relationship with the head medicine spirit. And when you invoke
Yeah.
and you sing the Ikaro, which is an invocation asking the plant medicine to come and to perform certain things as we see and know and feel what is needed for each person in the ceremony.
Yeah, that is really interesting because, like, I was saying to you earlier that um, ayahuasca has gotten to be, dare I say, a little bit mainstream in the US because all the seekers want to try it out. And I don't know if the people who are doing these ceremonies are actually people who are developing that kind of relationship with the spirits, because sometimes when I hear people talking about it, it's like almost recreational.
Yeah,
And
it's
I'm like, I don't really get that. I don't really get that.
no. And especially with ayahuasca, it can be incredibly dangerous. Um, Post, especially, you know, I mean, I've spent a lot of time training before I even entered into a space of being granted the opportunity to
Yeah.
offer the medicine. There's a ton of training that has to go into it and a ton of understanding. Um, it's not something that can be done like mushrooms. Mushrooms are kind of like the grandkids, and then you get San Pedro, which is the grandfather, and then you get ayahuasca, which is the grandmother.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense. That makes sense to me. Yeah, I feel like it's so unfortunate because ayahuasca is going to not have it's going to be devalued.
mhm,
And I feel I just feel like that's such a shame because it is a spiritual experience. It is not uh, necessarily meant to be um, like I'm tripping. Like, ooh, let's see what right? Like it's just a whole different idea, and I feel like we're kind of losing that here in the US.
yeah, I honestly, you know, it's like, I would always say I never want to see ayahuasca legal in North America, the Western world, because it will become abused, I think, as much as cannabis has been by its legalization in many places. You have to approach a medicine and a plant in a right relationship and
Yeah,
with the intention of working with it rather than using it. And there's a significant difference
yeah,
between that. You work with it, and it's like I said to you earlier, I am nothing without the spirit.
right.
I'm under the way. It's a relationship that we have come. It's difficult to describe the relationship, and especially in ceremony. She's here all the time, but it's it's a slippery slope, especially for people. And the other thing too is that a lot of people are doing the so-called self-guided journeys. Well, the self is an illusion.
Well, there's that. Plus, even if it wasn't an illusion, there's all these onion layers of bullshit that we were socialized and domesticated and, all of those things. Like, how can you be that and still see something new? Like, I don't, yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah, the self is just going to actually continue. So the only thing in the mental body, or what we call the mind, is the contents of what we've gathered, which is
Right.
incredibly limited. And it's only limited to that belief. Well, I believe in this. I do this. I don't, I want this. I don't want that. And so that's the self that is guiding a sacred plant medicine ceremony.
Yeah.
You're just going to get yourself tangled up even more and more and more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've seen it happen so many times. Which is
Yeah.
why we need more qualified guys.
I don't know why anybody would want to do that. But I feel like, and I would put myself in this classification. When I first started seeking, I wanted it to go fast. I wanted this awareness, these insights, these breakthroughs, and um, and then I realized that breakthroughs and insights are like little mind orgasms, right? Like they feel so good and then they're gone. and you're still the same person that you were, because just knowing makes no difference. It doesn't, the simple act of having a breakthrough doesn't change your life. But I wanted it to, right? Like I wanted it to go so fast because, we live in an age of technology where everything is at our fingertips and we can get information so quickly and all of those things. And I think that's why people want to do self-guided ayahuasca and all of these things, because we think that there is a quick fix. We're searching for this quick fix. And I'm 59. I started really getting serious about spirituality when I turned 50. And I mean, for 50 years, there was so much bullshit in my life. And now I think, oh, I'm just gonna, in 6 months, I'm gonna be my higher self, and all of those things are gonna be healed and dealt with and cleared out and all of those things. And, I don't know. I feel like that's not so realistic at this point because, as I was telling you before we started recording, I had an experience where I feel like I had been given several opportunities to work through something in a more gentle way. And I kept going, nope, I don't want to. No, not now. It's not a good time. And then finally the universe was like, oh, okay. We tried it the easy way and you were not doing it. And if you want to move forward, here's a lesson that you need. So we're just going to smack you upside the head. It's not personal growth, spiritual awareness, higher consciousness. None of that comes easily or quickly in the end. Not real lasting change in my experience. And I'm just one person, so I don't, maybe others are different, but yeah, it's so when you do so when you've experienced ayahuasca, so I was just saying that, it's not instantaneous. Things don't change for you right away. When you use a psychedelic, is that different?
When you say use a psychedelic, are you referring to a different medicine than
No,
ayahuasca?
let's just keep it with ayahuasca.
No, some things are absolutely immediate. Some things are.
Interesting.
Some things are absolutely immediately. Others, she will show you where you're stuck and say, this is what you've got to work on. So there's teaching along with healing. And so there's a lot that is going to be up to you after you finish a series of ceremonies, is what we refer to as a dieta. And a dieta is typically about 5 ceremonies within 7 or 8 days. And we look at those 5 ceremonies really as one from a shamanic perspective because we build
Okay.
upon one from the other. Um, I'll give you an example. Before I started, training and working with the medicine in a different way, I came down here to Peru and for my own healing
Yes.
and experience because she called. She called and she started calling really loudly. And I knew it was something I had to do. And I came down with the intention of completely and absolutely trusting and surrendering to the medicine and saying to her, do whatever you need to do.
Yep.
And and I managed to do that. The first night, as I say, you don't feel the whole way in on the first night. It's kind of like a firm handshake
Okay.
and an introduction. And there was a little bit of purging, but it was like, holy shit, because I'd never done psychedelics before,
Right?
right? And I was like, what? Oh my God. I mean, the first vision that I saw was this beautiful, beautiful, multicolored, huge octopus. And she
Ooh.
just swirling, and then it would just morph. And what happens is that I would see this. I saw this row of monkeys on top of the fence, and they were all pointing their fingers and laughing at me. And I knew instantly what it was. It was about not being accepted. It was about being laughed
Mm.
at. It was about, and I just went, I know what you're doing. Thank you. I love you. And then it disappeared. And so there was these so many things, and there would be geometric patterns of downloads, and I was like fascinated. I was just like watching this and going, oh my God. all of this. And I was like, look at all of the bullshit that this is projecting. So once you do the work and you finish with all of the projections of your own bullshit and your fears, then she will take you other places. And that comes a little later. But honestly, Lynda, the second and the third nights, she ripped me apart. She just tore me apart. I sobbed for 2.5 hours one night, and I knew what it was. I never allowed myself to truly grieve
Hmm.
the abuse from my mother, the sexual abuse that I had experienced as a child. And I did. I just sobbed. I just let it go for 2.5 hours. And then I purged out of my mouth. We call it real purge is a different consistency than vomit that comes from your stomach. And the sounds that were coming out of me while I was trying to heave this out. And it was super uncomfortable. I wasn't afraid. And I had one of the assistants come over and just sort of be with me while I was working this out. And when it finally came out, it was like this gloppy cottage cheese jello substance.
Wow.
And I knew it did not come from my stomach. And I turned to the assistant and I looked at her and I said, what the hell was that? And she just looked at me and she said it was energy. And I went, oh my God, that is so fucking cool. And I was exhausted. But it
Wow.
was just all of the stuff that had been trapped from such a young age that I had just not wanted to deal with. She had to dig out. I don't know that I ever would have been able to do that on my own. I don't. I don't know. But I know she did it for me. I know she definitely helped me with that.
I mean, that seems so, um, I can relate to it. When you said, you had never grieved the whatever you want to call it, the abuse, the mistreatment, the neglect, all of the things. Um, because I have those experiences in my life too, and I am very clear at this point in my life that all I ever did was put one foot in front of the other. Because there was the perpetrators were the people that I would have gone to for support, and so there wasn't anyone to go to. And especially when we're children, I am grateful that I have a certain level of resilience as part of my personality because I don't know what would have happened to me otherwise. There was nowhere to go with it. Nobody was listening. No one cared. And because of that, it just gets shoved down and you just keep going because you don't know what else to do. And then you never do grieve. You never even if, I mean, I've done therapy and all of that stuff, but mm, understanding what happened to you is different than grieving it. And I think grieving it is a really important thing, but also really hard to do.
I know. It was like and which is why I never really tried.
Right? I totally get that.
You know, I don't know. It was just like, okay, yep, that happened. Whenever it would come up, yep, that happened, and you put it away.
Yep.
But saying that isn't the same as truly accepting something. And for me, I feel truly that the breathing and that experience with the medicine allowed me the space in the room to just simply accept it without the baggage attached to it.
Wow. That's amazing. That's really
So,
amazing.
yeah.
And I love that you puked it up. Like it's so funny because one of the reasons I have not done participated in an ayahuasca ceremony is because I'll be honest, I'm scared of it. But weirdly, the fact that you puked that up makes me kind of more interested in it because I'm like, oh, I'd like to puke that shit out too.
Yeah, there's many different ways it can come out, but that one had to come out this in a certain way. I mean,
Yeah.
the other thing was is that my first night, and I knew this was going to happen because I had mild moderate IBS before I had gone in there, which oddly enough, and I think it's Gabor Mate that states this, that 90 to 95% of children who have been sexually
Hmm.
abused will develop IBS.
I've read that too.
And I would shit my pants at a red light. I would just get the crap. I couldn't help it. It would just happen. And so I knew that it was going to come out the bottom end, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, ayahuasca wisdom is never trust a fart. If you feel like you gotta go, you feel like you gotta go, you get up and get to the bathroom. There's always helpers, and if you can go on your own, get to your own. And I probably spent at least a third of the first night on the toilet, and I would just sit there and I would just pour out of my ass.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and then I'd be sitting there, and they'd come and check on me and say, "Hey, how you doing, Karma?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm good. I just, I go places and I come back, and then I go to my mat again." And I've never had any issues with IBS since.
Wow. That's incredible. I love that you're being so real about it. There have been other people I've talked to about their experiences with ayahuasca, and they, I don't know how to say, it's so kind of high level, right? But it's also a very physical experience, and some people don't like to talk about that, I feel.
Mhm.
Because it's embarrassing that I don't know, maybe, I guess some of us feel embarrassed if we're sitting on the toilet for 3 hours, right? But
Yeah.
I really love that you're being like so real about it because when for me at least, and I imagine it's true for other humans, that when it's what we don't know that is scary.
Hmm.
When you kind of know what to expect, you're like, oh, all right, I can deal. I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's different for each person. It's different from ceremony to ceremony. And I think one of the things is, I offer private and small group retreats here. I don't go with ayahuasca anymore over like 4 or 5 people. If I do, then I get a different space and I bring in another helper. Um, but my first dieta was with 28 other people in a ceremony room. And so when you're puking and crying and running to the bathroom and sitting on the toilet, it's something that happens when you drink ayahuasca with other people. There is a bond. Like, when you show up, we all showed up the first morning waiting for the bus. We're all, and they all have a group of people, everybody's sizing each other out. Where do
Yeah.
I have to put up my defenses or pretend to be
Right.
something that I'm not, and
Yes.
pretend that I'm all okay. In the meantime, my heart's
And I'm
pounding a
super
billion
spiritual
times.
and I got this and all of the things.
Right,
Yes.
right. And so I'm doing that, and I can see this, I can see this, and I can see myself doing it at the same time. And I'm like, watching this whole dynamic come on, and there's that nervous energy because we know we're going to get on a bus, we're going to go on a boat, we're going to go out into the jungle, and that night we're going to drink ayahuasca for me the first time. And I could say that I was trusting, but I was also a little like, my God, I have no idea what's going to happen. But I can guarantee you, after the third ceremony, there's no more sizing each other up. There is no more pretending. There is no more ego. Some people have shit their pants. It happens. It's okay. You go, there's a shower, you get cleaned up, you puke in a bucket or you cry. And there's just this
Yeah.
respect that you have. There's like diminished ego. I'm not going to say that there's no ego left, but there's a hell of a lot less than there was the first morning before the ayahuasca.
Yeah. And just for me, sisterhood, brotherhood is a big part of uh, what I want to help women have because the isolation that we find ourselves in can often make how we see ourselves so much worse because we don't have anybody to reflect to us accurately or as accurate as possible. So I feel like going through that experience with other people like that is a way of kind of tearing down those walls and um, experiencing like realness.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's pretty authentic if you shit your pants in front of other people, right? I mean,
And most of the time, nobody else knows unless you tell somebody that else
right,
knows,
right.
right? Because you're in your own journey, you're in your own thing happening. Nobody laying next to you is going to go, "Oh my God, I just shit my pants."
Okay, got it.
Or even if they do, you're probably somewhere doing
Right?
your own
Okay.
thing. So this is really in conversation the next day. If somebody admits that they've done that, then, you know, good for them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I've thrown people in a shower. You know, when I'm leading ceremonies, if it gets too intense, a cold shower helps smooth the medicine out, right? We do that. You know, we help people. We're there. It's very humbling. I changed puke buckets. It's okay.
Yeah. So what had you, I feel like I'm interviewing you here, but I'm
No,
so
I don't know how we got
sorry
into
about that.
that.
But I'm so curious about it. Like, what had you want, uh, like, did you feel called to learn to uh, work with ayahuasca? Did you like how did that come about? Because the last time I saw you, ayahuasca wasn't part of what you were doing.
Well, it was, but it wasn't something that was prevalent at the moment. I had come down here and had started to train. I still didn't know where it was going to go at that point, which is why I didn't talk about it too much.
Yeah, yeah,
And or how it would be accepted with other people. So that was part of my journey. So 10 years ago, after my partner, I guess almost 11 now, and I split up after 16 years, I had heard of ayahuasca somewhat, but it didn't really kind of twig. When Shannon and I split up and we moved our separate ways, I was absolutely miserable. It was like tearing the band-aid off because we had to live together for 4 months until we sold the house, which was fine actually. It was one of the best 4 months we had for a long time. But
Aw.
then ripping the band-aid off when we moved and separate, it was final. And I was absolutely miserable. What I was doing for work was very lucrative, but I hated it. I didn't enjoy it. It was just a gong show. Um, And so I knew that something needed to change. It was either jumping off the cliff or something else. And I ran into a healer, a psychic medium who I had in a couple of experiences with energetically that literally on a dime,
Mm,
changed on a dime. And I went, okay, I get it. Because I saw spirit when I was a kid. I had some really wild experiences that I couldn't talk to anybody about.
right?
So I got it, I understood it, and I wasn't afraid of it. There was something deep within me that knew this is it. This is the thing. And about 6 months before Shannon and I split up, I started to see spirit. I only felt in me before, but I started to see spirit, and I thought, well, I'm going through kind of a divorce, and so I kind of it's like I don't know what to do with this right now, so you're going to have to wait. So I just saw it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then when we moved, and I had this experience with this healer psychic medium, I was like, okay, I get it. But how? 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 I want to know how. This is the thing I've been waiting for. And I
yeah.
was fortunate enough to be able to dive in almost 24/7 and explore it. Started taking courses, started learning, started traveling. And then all of a sudden, it was like I was so tuned in. And it was almost like she was standing at the door, ayahuasca, going, hi,
Wow.
when are you coming? Remember me. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I look it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. I get
and,
that.
and so I went down for my first dieta, and by the end of it, the 5 ceremonies, I knew I had completely changed. And And I thought, well, it would be kind of neat to come back down and be an assistant and help and get back, change
Hmm.
minds. And so exploring, expanding, connecting, whatever you want. And I was back down here in 6 months.
Wow.
And it was
Yep. Wow. You were like hard pass, not doing it.
well, you know what it was.
Yeah.
So special. And I went, no, I don't think so. I think you got the wrong person, right? They went back to Vancouver, and she was like a little nagging 2-year-old. Hello, well, hello, you really do this, you really do this, and I'm like,
Wow.
so. And I think it was about 6 months or 6 or 7 months. You help, show me the way. I came back down to the room again and again and again and again and again and again. And she taught me, the shamans, the maestros taught me, and the rest they say is history. Never in a million years. If you talked to me 12 years ago and said that I'd be doing this right now, I would tell you that you're absolutely out of your mind.
I think it's so interesting that your journey from hard pass to okay was not necessarily around you suddenly feeling worthy to do it, but it was about you surrendering to it,
Yes. It's the
which I think we miss so often. We think that we need to somehow build something up in order to move forward, when actually it's the opposite.
mhm.
Things have to come down. That's so beautiful. I love that. And so
Yeah,
human, right? Like, no. And then, all right.
yeah,
I
it's
love that.
absolutely 100% surrender. And then you realize that it's not you, it's the enemy.
Yes.
It's not me. This is not me. It's mine. This is myself. It's my human. It's my mind. Is what we gather. This is a piece of memory that
Yep.
we've gathered. And so it's mine. What we gather can be ours, but it can never be me. I will try to go out of my way not to refer to this as me, because if I refer to this as me, I am in untruth. It is mine. And there's an intelligence here that if you can tap into that, into the cosmos and into that intelligence, then you can give what's yours instructions from a higher dimension of consciousness
Yeah.
rather than it demanding of you the compulsions, the tendencies, the addictions, the negative thoughts. And it's, hey, it sounds
Yeah.
easier said than done, but that's the way. And I've experienced that on many levels. I have experienced that through my guru, I've experienced that through medicine. So I know it to be true. And sometimes I still get myself tangled up. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. When you can
Well,
see
yeah.
it,
That's the other thing that I think is important to learn if you decide to sort of go on this seeking journey, and whatever traditions appeal to you is great as far as I'm concerned, but it is about you recognizing that the human is, you cannot, while you're here in this plane of existence, it's my belief that we cannot fully transcend our humanness, but we can hear what is me. And I think of what is me as my, soul, or I mean, I think of it as soul, but it's this higher self that lives in a human, and the human is always going to have a say, no matter how hard you try, right? Because here in this realm, the human carries us around, the human has experiences, the human responds. And in this plane of reality, the higher self um, can't always transcend the human.
it can. And it's not about transcending the human, it's about being able to be in the world but not of it.
Yeah, so say more about that.
So, three-dimensional consciousness in and of itself is dualistic. It's physical, which is only actually 1% is physical, it's really holographic. So if you can, three-dimensional consciousness and what we call three-dimensional reality is dualistic by its very nature. It's fear-based, survival-based,
Mm-hmm.
It's law and structure based, and time is linear.
Yes.
But none of that is actually true. It's only the perception of
Oh, yeah.
it's only the dimension of three-dimensional consciousness. If you can operate this being from a higher dimension of consciousness, then none of the dualistic pitfalls that exist in three-dimensional consciousness and reality will rule your life. All right. In your bio, you were talking about, the divine feminine
Yeah.
and feminine and masculine. So we all have equal amounts of divine feminine and divine masculine in us.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that we tend to project one more forward and subdue the
Yeah.
other one. Right? The divine feminine is not a concept, a theory, or a philosophy. The divine feminine is actually a dimension of consciousness.
Okay, give me just 1 second with that, because I always think of it as an energetic, and I'm just trying to see, so consciousness and energetic. Yeah, I would say that those are potentially interchangeable, consciousness and energetic, maybe in this sense. I don't know.
So this is what I experienced meditation and the processes and mindfulness. It's called suffering.
Yeah.
And it's basically which also so
Okay.
Shakti is the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Shakti goes and plays and touches Shiva, which is no thing,
Yeah.
and then bounces back and manifests into form. So the dimension of the divine feminine, if you can touch on that intelligence, anything that you want and it will be yours. So I do a sadhana to connect to the grace of my Devi, who I have worked with, and I'm like, Devi, I need your help with this. Boom. So there's a dimension of consciousness that you can, there's nothing in our civilization that has been created without the divine feminine. There's no pottery, there's no carpentry, there's nothing, because it's that play of energy that goes out and hits off of that no thing, Shiva, that then
Mm-hmm.
manifests into form. And that can be done by thought, emotion, singing, dancing, playing. The best thing that you can actually do is that we have to woo the divine. We have to woo it. It's not lost, we are, right? So what do we
Yes.
do? We need to shine as bright as possible and say, we have to woo the divine. So I woo the
Be a
divine in two
request,
ways.
right? Like be a request for the assistance, I guess, for lack of a better word. Um, but I love that you have to woo the divine. I have never thought about it like that before. That's cool.
Yeah, we have to woo. We have to
Yeah.
woo. It's like any relationship. If you enter into
Right?
a relationship and show up miserable and sad and angry, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
So we have to woo,
Yeah.
play, create, sing, dance, whatever it is for you. Woo. Consciously, lovingly, and joyfully.
Yes.
Woo. Woo, woo, woo.
I love that.
Woo. Just woo the divine. No matter what is going on out there, this can be loving and joyful, right? A lot of people will talk about spiritual bypass. I don't get it. I don't think that there's anything. What do you bypass? I don't get
Hmm.
spiritual bypassing. And what I've learned through medicine and especially through my group is that this is my doing. Buddha once said, "Send me to hell, for I cannot suffer." What that means essentially is that no matter what is going on out there, I can still be loving and joyful and peaceful within myself.
Yes. Possible capable, but we don't.
Mm, right, and this is the resistance.
Yes.
Right? And this is why, when the universe is trying to show you and myself in other ways gently, hey,
Yes.
this is where you're resisting. This is what we got to do. You're like, no, I'm not ready for that. Sorry. That's the resistance.
Yeah, and I want to just add a little, I want to be clear about that, that I don't think that the universe is cruel and,
Oh,
does that. I mean, I feel like uh, it was something that I wanted to face, but struggled to face. And so the universe gave me kind of a push, but I don't think it was malevolent in any way. And because one time I told that story to someone and they were like, oh, I don't think that's true because the universe isn't mean. And I'm like, oh, okay, just want to be clear. I don't think the universe is mean either. But when I step onto a path and say, I want to be more conscious, I want to step out of what I refer to as my own blinding and wounding that resulted from many things that happened and occurred and all of those things, then I'm inviting spirit, universe, whatever you call it, I'm inviting that in uh, to be my guide and to uh, create ways for me to do that. And um, yeah, so I just wanted to be clear about that. You know,
well, so the thing is that I think I alluded to and
right? Yeah, absolutely.
right. So
and
this is what
and that higher self of mine creating the experience, pulling in the people who were necessary to create that experience. um yeah, I totally believe that because it was a very kind of painful and difficult interaction with another human. And afterwards, I was like, I'm still struggling here a little bit, but also I'm aware that you were a delivery mechanism for me because this was something that I needed and wanted. And but that stuff works so crazy that you really have to uh, I guess for me, I just have to be really open to stepping past the blame game that we do. Well, oh, that person was mean to me, or the universe is forsaking me, um, or whatever. But we talked earlier about how spiritual paths are not all rainbows and unicorns, no matter how much you want it to be. And uh, I find that that is challenging for a lot of people. And so, the plant medicine. So, do you think that the plant medicine mm, helps you be more in tune with this higher self and these lessons and guidance that's coming and more willing to surrender to them?
absolutely,
Yeah, that's so interesting.
yeah, absolutely. This is why it's so important to be consciously aware moment to moment as much as possible, because that is how we create. And they can
Yes.
we can either create consciously or we create subconsciously, which has resulted in most of my own suffering and misery because of where
Yes.
my attention and my thoughts and
Yes.
negativity was always pointed. Well, the universe doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you don't want. It just things that just sees where your energy is focused and go, okay, you want more of that. Okay, so I understand now how such a powerful creator that I am, that I've created all of that shit for the first 50 years of my life.
Right?
So now I'm going to use that and work with that to the best of my ability to create what I do want.
Yes. Such a hard thing, though, I think, for
Yeah,
people early on in their journey to be able to say, I created that.
Well,
That first 50 years, I
yeah,
created that because we
yeah,
have this misunderstanding of what we're actually saying there.
yeah.
We're
Exactly.
saying that's where our attention has been.
Mhm.
Understandably, that's where our attention has been. But what we're saying is that attention is choice. I can put my attention here, or I could put it over here or up there. Like there's choice involved, but we don't learn that. It's not part of our growing up or our training or our parents. For the most part, we don't have parents who teach us those kinds of things. And I find that really frustrating, that many of us do go for so long suffering and without understanding that there is another option.
Mhm. Absolutely. And when I first really started to be shown that and understand that, I was,
Yeah, me too. Me too. I get that. Yeah.
myself, and that didn't help.
Nope.
So I just had to come to a place of acceptance. And so there was a lot of learning through that for me. And I developed some tools and techniques and some processes. And then I, implemented some stuff in the medicine. Is one of the first things that I do when I work with people one on one on my other sort of spiritual mentoring business. The first thing that I get them to do is to a place of understanding about how we create through energy and how the habits and patterns and
Yeah.
tendencies that we have adopted over our total lifetime starts to then recreate the past, and we're never fully present to creating anything now. And there's resistance, and it's okay. We work through it, we go through it.
Yeah. The hardest thing for me, I originally trained as a coach, like a life coach kind of thing. And one day in the training session, one of the leaders said to me, "You need a self love practice." And I literally said, "Is it okay if I swear on here?" Like,
Right.
okay. And she said, "You need a self love practice." And I literally, without even thinking, said to her, "I don't have fucking time for that." Like, and I believed that. I believed that. And, you know, however many years later, it's the place you have to start because like when we were talking about how, we see everything as so awful and everything, but if you won't love yourself, it's very hard to see how you deserve something different, it's totally okay for you to create something else. But that self-love thing, so much junk goes along with it. Oh, it's selfish and it's this and it's that and the other
Yeah.
thing. But it's full circle for me because the only way that I could literally move forward in the end was to love myself and have compassion for myself because I was really angry too. When I realized that it was actually a choice, like what the fuck? Why didn't I see this? What's wrong with me? All of that. And you have to get past that with love and compassion for yourself.
Absolutely. There's no
It's
other
the only
way.
way.
You
Yeah.
have to accept all of it. Right? You have to accept all of it. The
Yes.
perception of what you think is negative and positive, and a lot of people, and it was something that, I went through quite a while ago that, it was, transmitted, conveyed through spirit that there was parts of my past that were longing to be acknowledged and embraced.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh God, here we go again. But this is the
Yes.
kicker. That when I realized what I had just said to myself, and through meditation and a few days or whatever, I went, why are you focusing on only the negative in the past?
Yes.
So the parts that were really that wanting to be acknowledged and embraced was the resilience, the courage, the power, the training, the things that
Yes.
I've done to become this. And I was like, oh my God, oh shit. And then I
Yeah.
was like, it was like attention on on the good qualities, right? And not that I'm special, because I'm not. I'd rather just be ordinary. And simply to be special means that you want to be better than somebody else. I don't.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
not a
want to be,
hierarchical thing, and there's not a
uh,
superior, inferior kind of a thing. It's really, truly acceptance
yeah, acceptance is key.
without comparison to any other being.
Yeah. Comparison is
And
the thief of joy.
oh my gosh, so true. I mean, and but we're taught, you know, the way our school systems work, the way we're parented, the way our careers can go is co- constant comparison. It's no wonder
Right?
that we think that, but self-love is the absence of comparison.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're taught to compare, to judge the world,
Yes,
to compete.
to
And I
compete.
don't need to be the best.
At this point in my life, Carmel, I just want to be me. I want to feel good in my own skin, who I am, knowing that I'm not perfect. I am human. I do things or say things that are shitty or not so cool. And I want the opportunity to clean that up and to do better next time. But I don't, it's not about me being better. It's about me feeling good in my own skin and feeling like for me, I can make a difference for other humans because I feel like that's my calling and doesn't have to be the same for everyone else. But um, yeah, it's not at all a hierarchical thing. It's truly being okay with yourself, feeling able to be vulnerable and authentic, not with everybody in the world, but having a few humans that you trust and you can be vulnerable with so you can do that grieving process and all of the things. um to me, in the end, has been my journey, was to get to a place where I could feel good in my own skin.
Yeah, do what
Not,
you love. Do what you
yes,
love. Do what you love and feel good doing it. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated.
no, it does not.
It doesn't have
We
to
like to
be.
make it complicated, but it does not
Well,
have to be.
then, the intellect gets involved, and the intellect can never know
Yes,
anything. It just cuts things apart, right? So that's,
yes,
we got to get that
yeah.
force under control.
I mean, I love the people who are very logical, reasonable, intellectual kinds of people because they literally have made it possible for us to have this conversation today. So I'm super grateful for those people, but I'm also very aware that those are not my gifts, and I should be very grateful for what my gifts are and put them to use and not worry about the fact that somebody else could do something better or different or whatever. Like that's not important. But it's hard. It's hard to
It
get to
is.
that place.
Little bit by little bit. We navigate and we move forward.
Yes.
Oh, my dear.
So much
This
fun. I feel like we could talk for days.
I know, and I'm thinking, okay, attention spans. Okay, what we'll do is that
Yes,
we'll do part two, part three. We'll do
I would
different
love it.
segments of it. Okay.
I would love it. And who knows? Maybe I'll come to Peru and let you be my ayahuasca ceremony leader, and then we can talk about it. We can have another conversation afterwards, and I can share my experience.
I would love that. I
Yeah.
would love that.
Thank you so much for having me and so much for answering all of my questions and letting me interview you a little bit. I'm so grateful because I learned so much in this conversation. It was awesome.
It was fun. We said at the beginning, we don't know where it's going to go, so
Right?
let's just let it
Let's
flow. And
just do
this
it.
is where it went. And so,
Yeah.
oh my God, thank you so much, love.
You're
And
so
thank you,
welcome.
everybody, for tuning in. And we will see you in a couple of weeks.